The Philippines, now a republic, and also known as the first Philippine stage, the Filipino series. Well, the first coins as a republic was this rather obscure commemorative for MacArthur. This coin, defender and liberator of the Philippines. So, October 1944, General Douglas MacArthur. And here we are again, Philippines, 50 centavos, 1947. You can see that small S there. That year is the last time you'll ever see a mint mark on any of these foreign coins. It appears on that one and on this full peso, there you go, October 20, 1944. Same picture. They look very similar, although if you look closely, the peso is a full profile. The 50 centavo, he's slightly facing the viewer. Okay, again, Philippines, 1947 S, 1 peso. But obviously that was just a commemorative and made out of silver to the same standards as before. In 1958, however, real coinage would begin. First with this new 1 centavo to the same standards as the standard US cent, except that there is no tin. So kind of anticipating our other regular pennies that also have no tin. Here's a 1958 5 cent made out of brass, sort of like the brass 5 centavo for the Cuba during World War II. It's the same size as an American nickel, made of brass. All right, here's the 10 cent of 1958, and the 25 cent, 1958. Finally, the 50 centavos, 1958. Now, a lot of these are actually minted in 1959, except for the 1 cent, which is mostly 58, and the 5 cent, which for some reason, the 5 cent alone, the ones struck in 1959, are actually dated 1959. So there's a certain amount of sloppiness as far as what years these things are actually struck versus what years are on the coins. 1960, the cent continues, 1960. Copper, just like the American cent. The 5 cent continues in brass. And the 10 cent. And by the way, these are in a kind of German silver alloy once again. No more silver. The sizes, however, return the original diameters of the comparable American coins, which you notice where there used to be a 20 cent. This era introduces a 25 centavos, the same diameter as a standard US quarter, but there was no silver in this. We get a 1961. The only things dated 1961 are these commemoratives for Dr. Rosell as the national hero. So here's the half peso. The only time this denomination is called half peso instead of 50 centavos, by the way. And here's the other picture of him. 1861 to 1961. It's 100 years from his birth. But his death had happened a lot earlier. He was a pretty young man. Republic of the Philippines, 1 peso. That's the same specifications as a standard US half dollar and silver dollar. Now in 1962, we continue with the centavo. At some point, the American 1 cent had the tin taken out, and at that point, they began having the exact same standards, metal-wise. The 5 cent centavo continues again with its brass configuration, and a 10 cent with its German silver. There are no mint marks anymore. As I say, you don't see any mint marks after 1947. Not only for Philippines, but for all coins. And then finally, among the very last coins made for a foreign government at the U.S. Mint was the 1 cent 1963, and the 5 cent for 1963, and the 10 cent for 1963. Then the coin shortage was pressing in, and the U.S. Mint had to devote all of its energies and resources to basically replacing the American coinage. So other governments had to step in to continue the Filipino series, which went on for a couple bit. There's a commemorative 1963 made at London Mint. This one commemorates Andres Bonifacio. And you can see the edge of that shield looks a little bit different than the edge of the, what you would call it, the ribbon there. In 64, now the other governments didn't bother making the 1 centavo anymore, but they did make a brass 5 centavo, much like ours. This is struck at the London Mint, so it looks a little bit different in the way it's struck. Obviously they did not use the same dies, and the 10 cent is struck in London. So these are all London, these not American here. In 64 here, 50 centavos. Okay, and then they also commemorated Apollinario Mabini. And again, notice the different look of the shield and the ribbon, because it's not made in the U.S. In 66, some would be made at London, such as the 5 cent. Still just like the 64. And some, such as the 10 cent, if you look carefully, you can see, I mean, her hair looks different, her face looks different. It almost looks like a Brunhilde or something, a Valkyrie. Now, the 25 cent was made both in London, which looks more or less as it had always looked, and in the VDM Mint of Germany, which again has this total, Valkyrie, Brunhilde look that marks it as having being the German one. One of these is, they go by how many smoke rings they have sometimes, but it's just easier to say whether the lady looks like a young model or a Valkyrie. But anyway, the U.S. had nothing to do with these coins because they were in no position in those years to make any foreign coins at all, other than the Panamanian 25 cent piece in 1966, but that was an isolated one-shot thing. So this here really is what the U.S. Mint made for the Filipino series of the Philippines. And note also at this stage, up until this stage, what had been made goes in the red book. But starting with this, it is not in the red book, even though we would continue to make more coins for the Philippines once we're able to start doing that again.